Hi, hello. Today we are going to be going over one of my favourite genres, horror. Do you know what? It does upset me a little bit when people say, oh, I don't like horror. I can't read horror. It's so gory. It's so disgusting. It's just there for the shock value. While I appreciate that take, and obviously those opinions are valid, there are so many different subgenres within horror, which I myself only discovered in 2023 when I first made the transition over from thriller to horror. And you know what? I've never looked back. There is a particular subgenre in horror which I find really works for me, and that's literary horror. Very strong social commentary on important matters, and they're dealt with using unsettling storylines and horror motifs to really bring the point home. I love it, and bonus points for having beautiful writing. So today I'm going to go through every single 5-star horror book. I'm doing horror in inverted inverted commas, because a lot of these books you might not even classify them as horror. That's the kind of horror that I really enjoy. So we're going to be going through every single horror book that I've ever given 5 stars. I think there's 13 of them, but I'm very excited to share these with you, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to convince some non-horror readers to pick one of these up. You're going to be in for a good time, that's all I'm saying. Also, hi, hello, if you're new here, I'm Natalie. I post twice a week consisting of book hauls, TBR videos, book recommendations, all that kind of stuff. So if that sounds like something you're into, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I'd love to have you over here. So without further ado, let's go through all my 5-star horror books. One author that really got me into horror is an author that writes what I class as cozy horror. It has the horror themes in there, but they tend to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, very light. So if you've never read horror before, I personally think that Rachel Harrison is a really good place to start. Disclaimer, this book is the only book of hers that I've ever given 5 stars. I quite liked So Thirsty, which is her newest release, but the rest of them have all been 3 stars and below. This follows Annie. She's recently broken up with her boyfriend and moves to a small town where she befriends an older lady called Sophie, who doesn't seem to age. Everybody in the village seems scared of her, and she lives in some creepy mansion in the woods. And this is a story of female friendship, decentering men, and kind of finding yourself. I loved it. It is speculative. It does have some ghosty scenes in there, but I just had so much fun, and some of the characters in here are so cute. It does get a little bit weird, but not too weird. I definitely say that this is a fantastic place to start if you've never read horror before. The books that I actually started, the first horror book was Intercepts by TJ Payne. I wouldn't recommend starting with that, to be honest. That's sci-fi horror, and I'd say that's definitely a step up from Cackle. A secret government facility where they're testing on humans. One of the workers and his daughter start becoming targeted by some of the human testing subjects. It genuinely creeped me out. I gave it 5 stars when I read it, just because I'd never picked anything else up like this before. Obviously, I had a fantastic time, and that one was actually quite gory. If you're mainly a literary fiction reader, then I think that you would really enjoy Chlorine by Jade Song. This is the story of a young girl, Ren Yu, who's a swimmer, and she is pushed to the brink by her family and her coach to perform the best she can. Her kind of internal hatred of herself, really, and really negative self-image makes her believe that she is actually turning into a mermaid. This is speculative. You're not going to get all of the answers, but the writing is absolutely stunning. This has excellent social commentary on race, sexism, self-image. It's just a fantastic book, and it's only short. How long is this? Let's say 200 pages. It's 220 pages, so you could read this in a sitting or two. I would highly recommend Chlorine by Jade Song. I didn't give it 5 stars, but Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang was a very close contender. I think I gave it 4.75 stars. I really loved this book, and it's got a lot to say, again, about race, privilege, the beauty industry. I think if you enjoy Chlorine, you'd enjoy Natural Beauty, and vice versa. If you're more of a fantasy reader, then I think Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo would be a good place to start. I don't think I was really that into kind of secret society stuff, but this intrigued me so much. Each society on this university campus has its own kind of specialist area of the occult, and Alex Stern is responsible for overseeing the activities of the different secret societies. It gets quite wild, and I loved it. This is actually a duology. The second book, Hellbent, I really didn't like. I wish you just stopped it here, to be honest. But yeah, I feel like you could just read this and be done with it and still have a really great time. To be fair, me not liking the second book is definitely an unpopular opinion, as I know a lot of people have really enjoyed it. So do with that what you will. Moving on, historical fiction with horror elements. The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. Yeah, she's really thick, but trust me, she's so worth it. Tananarive Due's writing will literally pull you in and won't let you go to the very last page. Historical elements behind this, which are based loosely on true stories. They're about reformatory schools that existed in America where white and black boys got sent to them, but it was segregated and the black boys got treated so much worse. Literally, they would go in and never come back out again. I think the last one closed in the 60s. I might be wrong. I need to research that. However, you don't need to have any background going into this. This essentially follows Robbie, and he gets into a bit of a scuffle with a local white boy, and then I think he kicks him because he was defending his sister, Gloria, and because of that he then gets carted off to this reformatory school where, to be honest, the real horrors are the people that work there rather than the ghosts. It does have supernatural elements to it. The ending is very satisfying, and because it is so chunky, you do feel like you get to know the characters really well. And I just love this from start to finish. I think I listened to the audiobook of this as well. I definitely plan on reading her backlist, but you can't go wrong. But that is, I would say, historical fiction with a hint of horror. Speaking of historical, I don't know if this was classed as historical actually, because it's only in the 50s. But The Devil and Mrs. Davenport by Paulette Kennedy blew me away. So this is following a housewife in the 50s who has very little to no autonomy over her body, choices that she makes in her life. And then one day she starts receiving kind of supernatural messages from people that have been recently murdered. She confesses this to her husband, who's like a very devout Christian, and he automatically assumes it's due to the female condition, just a very overactive imagination. He just kind of dismisses it, to be honest. So she goes behind his back and starts to go and see a psychologist who has an interest in the occult, and things just get wild from there. Social commentary on this is really strong about women's rights, mental health, and how women were treated or perceived in society. There's a lot of religious trauma in this as well. It was absolutely fantastic. I could not put it down. This is not scary. None of the ones that I've spoken about are scary. And I just feel like this book does not get hyped up anywhere near as much as it needs to. It's on KU as well. So if you do subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, then you can read it on there as part of your subscription. I think now would be a good time to talk about my most recent 5-star horror read, and that is Augustina Bastarrica's new release, The Unworthy. I read Tender as the Flesh by her a year or so ago. It was horrendous, but absolutely incredible. It's got commentary on consumerism, greed, human nature. It was a good time, very shocking, very bleak. The main thing I would say about Augustina Bastarrica's writing and what makes it so powerful is that even though to us, the reader, the circumstances that the protagonist is experiencing is extremely disturbing, for them, it's just day-to-day life as normal. There's nothing out of the norm. And I think that's what gives it that really unhinged, eerie feel. And The Unworthy is no different. This essentially follows a young woman who's been taken in by some kind of convent. And at the beginning of the story, you're loosely aware that this is like a dystopia that they're living in. The world around them has seemingly crumbled. They are so cruel to each other for the sake of remaining sacred. So it's definitely got some social commentary on kind of like cultish religious behaviour. This is also sapphic, so bonus points for that. It's a very bleak outlook. They live in cells. And then one day, our main character happens across a woman from the outside world who then comes in to join this sacred sisterhood. This was absolutely incredible. I loved it from start to finish. I started reading it physically and then I swapped over and was reading this immersively, so listening to the audio at the same time as reading along, and I highly recommend that. The narrator was absolutely excellent. It's written in kind of like a diary format, so there's words that are crossed out, and the way that the narrator does that is by whispering what she's saying, which just adds to the creepy atmosphere. It's fantastic. This could also be a banger for you. It was for me. Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder is definitely a horror that doesn't feel like a horror. This is the story of a woman who was very ambitious, had a fantastic career, but took a break from it when she became pregnant to raise her son, who is now 2 in this story. And then she's kind of convincing herself that she's turning into a dog, like she finds hair on her, and at night time she seems to run around with a pack of dogs. It's very bizarre. There's definitely some very dark scenes in here, not a huge amount of body horror, and the ending was absolutely wild. I think some people will absolutely love this, like me, for example, and some people will absolutely hate it because it does go a little bit off the charts. I'm not going to lie, especially the ending with the whole show. If you've read it, you know what I mean. I just love this. This is about a woman coming into her own and finding herself after kind of losing her identity a little bit after becoming a mother. And this book explores that in the most fun and inventive way, and I just had such a fantastic time. And this has actually been made into a film, which I haven't watched yet because I'm scared that it won't live up to the hype of the book and ruin the experience for me, which I know is really bizarre. Maybe I should just read it. Maybe I should stop rambling on right now. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder. Love this so much. It's kind of horror, but it's kind of not. It's more about the message. You know, Bunny by Mona Reward. This is, again, another one of those books where you're either going to love it or you're going to absolutely hate it. When I first read this, I DNF'd it. I reread it via immersive reading. So I listened to the audio and read along with it. I absolutely loved it the second time round. I think I'd read All's Well by Mona Reward by this point. So I was kind of used to her writing. I didn't really know what to expect. I've heard it described as the Heathers mixed with Mean Girls, but I've never watched The Heathers, so I can't say. I would say it's got like an element of The Craft. Definitely feels a little bit culty. Sometimes you'll wonder what on earth is going on. But you know what? The audiobook is so good. Just the way that they talk to each other. They're so creepy. Yes, Bunny. Okay, Bunny. You've just got to take it for what it is. And the ending, I just did not see that coming. Mona Reward seems to blend horror, satire with a little bit of like fairy tale gothic into her stories in a way that I just find so enjoyable, especially as somebody who really doesn't like any kind of retelling of fairy tales. I don't know why, I just really hate it. It's just not my thing. I wish I loved it, but I don't. However, if Mona Reward writes it, and with a bit of dark academia, then you know I'm going to eat it up. So yeah, and I love this cover. I love oh my god, why can't I talk? An illuminous cover. Absolutely loved. Another weird horror that, again, this one is actually quite horrific, but no more horrific than if you were going to be reading like a dark thriller, to be honest. In fact, I think this one is actually classed as a thriller, but I would say it's a horror adjacent thriller. The Last House on Needless Street, where one of the main characters is actually a cat called Olivia. I'm just going to read you the blurb because I feel like anything else that I tell you is going to be a spoiler. And let me just say that this is definitely one of those books where you have to trust the process. And when you get to the end of it, a lot of people said, I didn't understand it. I think it helped as well because I read this immersively. So I listened to the audiobook and read along at the same time. But actually, when you do get it and you thought about it for a little while, it is so clever. And I love that. That is one of the things I absolutely adore in any genre, but especially in kind of social commentary horror, when the message is really complex or the twist is really clever and just leaves me like, oh my god, how did I not see that coming? I don't think I have actually spoken to many people that guessed the twist for this. But anyway, so it says, the story of a murderer, a stolen child, revenge. This is the story of Ted, who lives with his young daughter Lauren and his cat Olivia in an ordinary house at the end of an ordinary street. All these things are true, and yet some of them are lies. An unspeakable secret binds the family together, and when a neighbour moves in next door, the truth may destroy them all, because there's something buried in the dark forest at the end of Needless Street, but it's not what you think. Oh yeah, that's coming back to me now. A woman who moves next door, is she a detective? I don't know. I can't remember. It was a little while ago since I read this. But anyway, a woman moves next door because her sister is missing or presumed dead. And she's kind of like investigating it. Maybe she's just like an amateur sleuth. But anyway, that's all I'm going to tell you. That's all you need to know. Just buckle up and enjoy the ride. That would be my advice when it comes to The Last House on Needless Street. But Catriona Ward is known for writing really weird books. Another one of her books that I loved was Sundial, but that one has got animal cruelty in it. So that's why that's not really on this list, because it's not really, I wouldn't say that's like beginner friendly, you know. And that one is very confusing and very weird, but I, again, read that at the start of my horror journey and really enjoyed it. So hopefully you will as well. I went into Crossroads by Laurel Hightower, not really knowing what it's about, other than the fact it was to do with a mother-son relationship. I was not prepared. Because it's so short, I'm hesitant to tell you too much about it because I don't want to give anything away. But it does say on the blurb, how far would you go to bring back somebody you love? When Chris's son dies in a tragic car crash, her world is devastated. The walls of grief close in on Chris's life until one day a small cut on her finger changes everything. I don't know how she does it, but she packs so much emotion into such a tiny book. So this is a grief horror about a mother refusing to let go of her son. And it is paranormal, and the ending blew me away. It is really creepy. This one is probably the scariest one, and it's not even scary, really. It might make you sort of peer over your shoulder if you're alone in the house at night. It's not grotesque. It's more the atmosphere is very creepy and what's going on and kind of like the unknown. But I would absolutely recommend this. And because it's short, you can fly through it. So you're not committing too much if you're new to horror. And then the final book that I want to talk about is We Used to Live Here, which I don't actually have a physical copy of yet. I think I've pre-ordered the paperback. That should be coming soon, actually. How to describe this? There's a couple that have bought a new house. They move in there. And then one night, one woman goes out and the other woman, who's a little bit more of a pushover, is at the house when the family who used to live or own the house come knocking and say, oh, we were just passing and we just wanted to have a look around the house, if you don't mind, because we miss it, or I want to show my children, or something like some load of shit, some sort of excuse where most of us would be like, no, I'm sorry, you cannot come in. But this girl's like, yeah, sure, come in, have a look around. There's always seems to be a reason why they can't leave, like right at that moment. And then things just get weirder and spookier and like parallel university, and you don't really know what the fuck's going on, but you're a little bit scared at the same time. It's very confusing, it's speculative, and it's one of those ones with an ambiguous ending. So if you hate that, then this book probably isn't going to be for you. But I loved it. There was one scene in particular when she's in the attic, and oh my god, that one literally lives in my mind rent free. It is so creepy, but again, I would recommend it. It's not really gory. It's more like the supernatural element of it is really creepy, and it's the tension building is what's kind of getting your heart going as you're reading it. 'Cause you're like, what are you doing? Get out of the house. And like the kid goes missing in the house, and then she's trying to look for him, and the dad's like just standing there. Oh, it's a good time. I loved this book, and I know that this is one of those Marmite books. People either absolutely loved it or absolutely hated it. But I absolutely loved it, and I hope you will as well. So they are all my 5-star horror book recommendations that I personally think are suitable for new horror readers. They're not that gory. They're relatively straightforward to follow, well, barring a few. But I just know if you have similar taste to me, you're likely to have a fantastic time with these. So please do let me know if you've read any of these or if you're planning on picking any of them up. And also please drop in the comments what book you would recommend to somebody new to read in horror, or just your favourite horror book, then I can add it to TBR. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you had a good time. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I'd love to have you over here. But until the next time, I'll see you in another one again soon. Bye.